Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. This is 2024 Best of and Unheard Bits. So Far, Part 2. In this episode, you will hear some of our favorite moments, plus some bits that didn't quite make the initial airings. Joining me on this episode are Jeff Hyson, Gina Brown, Michelle Wojciechowski, Polite Kitty, Chip Jones, Chelsea Abispa, Mo Alexander, Joshua Postel, Valerie Pascal, and Walter Gottlieb. A lot's happened this week. A special counsel report on Biden retaining classified documents concluded that there was no evidence he did anything criminal and wouldn't be charged. This is, of course, in contrast to Trump, who flaunted his classified documents to the point where the only way he would piss off the National Archives more would be if he streaked through the building. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz said he wouldn't watch the Super Bowl because it featured the song Lift Every Voice and Sing, also known as the Black National Anthem. This is the same guy who would only watch the Miss Teen USA pageant if it took place in his bedroom. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. apologized for misusing his family's images in a Super Bowl commercial. No word on whether he'll apologize for not being the Kennedy Jr. who took flying lessons. Donald Trump was found guilty of fraud and served with a judgment of more than $450 million. That's if you include the interest. In order to pay off his judgment, I wonder if Trump will get so desperate that he'll melt down Trump Tower and turn it into one giant coin to give the city of New York. In order to raise funds, Trump is selling gold sneakers with his name on them. I'm not sure what Trump knows about footwear, considering he's so unfit that he could be carried around everywhere on a furniture dolly. Trump is hawking his sneakers the same way a comic hawks a DV of an open mic set from 2019 and calls it a special. This past week, President Biden gave his State of the Union address. It was an exciting event with lots of fanfare, complete with Marjorie Taylor Greene dressing like one of those people at sporting events with a t-shirt gun if she accidentally turned it on herself. The Republicans were collectively emasculated during the speech. Between the expressions on Speaker Mike Johnson's face and Alabama Senator Katie Britt's affect on the Republican Party's response, the two of them together might make the perfect couple you would meet at a swingers party. Specifically, they would be the last two faces you see before the drugs kick in and you lose consciousness. During Biden's speech, Mike Johnson's facial expressions look like those of the pet in the shelter that no one adopts and knows it's going to be euthanized the following day. Since we were last on, CPAC had their annual convention. One of the speakers there said to look out for dangerous liberal organizations and specifically cited AARP. The AARP? Dangerous liberals? Really? AARP is retired people, conservatives. That's your target demographic. The only time retired people are dangerous is when they get out of the bathtub. We just lost the senior audience. That's fine, though. What about January 6th? You might say, oh, they aren't retired. The correct term is unemployed. Mitch McConnell announced he would step down as the leader of the Senate Republicans at the end of the year. He followed that up with that's always like the most awkward moment in my comedy set, like the most awkward joke I've ever done, because people are just waiting to see if there's a punchline. And if they wait too long, then the joke doesn't fucking work. Donald Trump's criminal trial in the Stormy Daniels hush money case starts on April 15th. If he's convicted, He could lose a lot of supporters and therefore the election in November. And along with that, the ability to have his pick for attorney general dismiss all his federal cases. Finally, a side effect of banging a porn star worse than catching an STD or residual splooge. Trump faced criticism after saying that if he lost the election, there would be a bloodbath. His supporters were saying he meant an economic bloodbath, but that's unlikely. While I'm sure Trump knows the word economic, there's a lot of doubt he knows what that word means. Florida's Don't Say Gay bill has been struck down by a state court. This has led to public backlash against the policies of the state's governor, Ron DeSantis. I don't know if we've talked about him yet this year. His policies are so bad when his policies are so bad when even the residents of Florida are fighting back. It's bad when even the guys who do the bang bus videos are like, this is fucking disgusting. As if things aren't bad enough down there, there's a measles outbreak since DeSantis's Surgeon General won't mandate vaccines for kids going to school. Great. Another disease that can be caught on the bang bus.
Oh, jeez.
Former Republican National Committee Chair Ronna Romney McDaniel was fired by NBC News after she was hired as a contributor, at least what the backbone news networks have now. McDaniel was fired as of the recording of this episode. When this episode drops, who knows? When this episode is listened to a few days after it drops, again, who knows what's going to happen? Given her activities in the days after the 2020 election, she'll just deny she was fired and try to show up for work anyway. Worst case scenario, she'll stand with the crowd outside the Today Show every morning and yell her analysis into a megaphone. An actor who had a bit part on the TV show NCIS was arrested after he was identified as one of the people who broke into the Capitol on January 6th. I think he should be given probation and no jail time on the sole condition that we get to watch Mark Harmon smack him on the back of the head on live TV. There is the risk of alienating your target audience with a political stance, but in the age of Trump, Taylor Swift shows why such rules do not apply, as we can see in this clip from her 2020 behind-the-scenes documentary.
These aren't your dad's celebrities, and these aren't your dad's Republicans.
Well, imagine if we came to you and said, hey, we've got this idea that we could halve the number of people that come to you next to it.
And the other thing, just from a security
So you
standpoint,
think
Taylor Swift comes out against Trump.
I don't care if they write that. It really is a big deal to me. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking. She thinks that if you're a gay couple, or even if you look like a gay couple, you should be allowed to be kicked out of a restaurant. It's really basic human rights, and it's right and wrong at this point. And I can't see another commercial and see her disguising these policies behind the words Tennessee Christian values. Those aren't Tennessee Christian values. I live in Tennessee. I am Christian. That's not what we stand for.
There's always that risk of you're going to lose half your audience, half the audience, when it's shown that only like half the audience even has an opinion about that kind of thing. There's one opinion. I think 40-some% of the electorate, they're either independents, they don't identify with a political party, or they don't vote at all.
Right.
Was one of those her father, Chelsea?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the way she stood up to him and the other guy, so impressive.
She is an eldest daughter.
Right?
But
Yeah.
I mean, she's also a billionaire. She's a entrepreneur, businesswoman, a billionaire
Yeah,
businesswoman. I mean,
she's made her
she's
family
making-
more money.
She's making
than they
decisions
ever-
all the time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about her most is her business decisions and how she just moves in. I mean, mentioned the toxic political environment. I mean, she's no stranger to toxic environments.
And I think
So,
uh, her estimated net worth, I think, is 1.1 billion American dollars. Like, even if you were to lose half of that, that's still more than
Nice piece of change.
Still more than 500 million is it's pretty good.
And
That's
you know
nice.
what?
Yeah.
Even if she spoke up, she still has that money, and she just made $75 million by selling the rights to her concert film for her Eras tour to Disney. She just sold $75 million.
Yeah, I
mhm.
don't think I think at a certain point when you stand for something, it separates, you're not concerned about the money, especially if you have a ton of it. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. At this point, it's really, she just wants to, she's in a position to use her platform to share what, is important for her generation and women and others in general. So she should do it.
Mm-hmm. She has a lyric that says, "Someday I'll be big enough that you can't hit me."
That's it.
Yeah.
And she sure is.
I'm still angry. I tried to borrow 20 for her, and she's like, I have no cash on me.
You just got to prove you're a big enough fan, Chip. She has been known to give money away to her fans.
Donald Trump may not get all of Nikki Haley's voters to support him in the general election, but he will get a substantial portion. Whether it's enough to put him over the top remains to be seen. In this clip, we can see a breakaway group of Republican activists in Greenville County, South Carolina, in a report from The Guardian.
A group of outcast conservatives, once part of this party, have formed their own independent group called the 4th District Republican Club. They invited us to come and meet them at a local Denny's.
Welcome, you guys. I'm Linda Garner.
Hi, Linda.
4th District.
Oh, nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
I'm Oliver,
Yeah.
this is Tom.
Yeah.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Many here have been committed Republicans for decades.
A lot of people in this room were very active in the Greenville County Republican Party, and 2 years ago, they got new leadership. Several of us didn't really feel welcome there.
That group is a little bit too extreme for you.
Yes, a little bit extreme.
Do you think that's a consequence of Donald Trump? These guys are very, very loyal to him.
Yeah, I don't understand why there's that feeling is there.
Would you vote for Trump in a general election?
I don't know.
Their actions speak words and a lot of volume, so yeah.
A lot of volume.
A lot of volume, yeah, absolutely.
I do appreciate you guys coming, and I went on your site today and read some of your publications and was very impressed.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The group had invited a state Republican representative called Jason Elliott to speak. He's also the first openly gay person to be elected to the legislature in South Carolina.
Some of those folks in the county GOP here are talking about absolute undying loyalty to Donald Trump. The idea that voting for anybody else is essentially disloyal. You must feel uncomfortable with that.
Well, that's not the way the Republican Party works, and that's not the way democracy with a little d works. If we were to subscribe to the viewpoint that it's disloyal and we need to coronate somebody, we might as well just cancel all the primaries. Elections are about the future, and if we relitigate the 2020 election, and if we relitigate January 6th, the Republicans are going to have a hard time regaining the White House.
Would you still vote for Donald Trump if he's the nominee, though?
I'm voting for the nominee of the Republican Party.
So you would still vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
I know that, Denny's.
I'm sorry, Mo.
Have you been there when you were drunk too?
Yes, I have. I have been there at 3:00 in the morning. I did no cocaine in the bathroom. The other comics might have been doing, and I did dance on the bar, but that was because they told me I could, and that's a true story.
Disclaimer noted.
I have a book from Mo about all the places and Waffle Houses and Denny's that he's been to.
I'm actually in the process of writing that. There's a lot of drunken stories I have, and yeah, I got kicked out of a swingers club once for heckling.
I have so many questions, but we don't have the time. But do not. I reserve the right to ask my questions at another time when I want to.
Okay.
It's in the book. It's in the book that he's writing. Let's leave that as a teaser.
From tequila drinking swingers club. Talking.
In addition to the continued election denialism, we can also expect to see the lowest of the lows in this campaign. In this clip from a Kansas City news station, we see one group of Kansas Republicans as they take their hatred of Joe Biden to somewhat of an extreme.
As a lifelong Republican, I was appalled, I was sickened, I was disgusted with it that could happen.
Videos from the event show several people hitting and kicking and then beating a training dummy wearing a mask of President Biden. When the former chair of the Kansas Republican Party saw that, he was shocked.
We can disagree with one another on policy, but we're all fellow human beings. We never resort to violence in our country because we disagree with one another.
The current Johnson County GOP chair, in a statement released late this afternoon, said it was an outside exhibitor's self-defense display. The mask was, quote, regrettable and removed, and she added no one collected or solicited any funds in exchange for hitting the device. Political experts we talked to today said what happened here is in line with what is happening nationally in the grand old party.
When Donald Trump is the standard bearer for the party, I don't think these kind of things are surprising.
And the growing divide within it.
There are people on the right who are saying, like, no, this is not who we are. That just doesn't seem to be the group of people who are in control of the Republican Party in 2024.
Which is one reason why Kuckelman is now calling for the resignations of both the state and the county party chairs.
Both of them need to resign.
But there's no indication that's going to happen. In Overland Park, Matt Evans, KBC 9 News.
Someone should have just trolled them and gone, you know, that mask looks a little like Bob Dole. Also, I like how they like to portray Biden as feeble and stumbling. I brought that up at the top of the show, but like these people couldn't even kick a stationary dummy without tripping all over themselves.
It's like, why you could just imagine these people chasing the world on rascals with like a million flags for Trump. I've seen that actually in the suburbs. Long Island, people say Florida is terrible. Go to Long Island. Go to Long Island. All right, go to Staten Island. They have like Trump flags everywhere, and the moment you make fun of them, they lose it, and they just literally fall over themselves as they try to chase you.
Oh, and we're supposed to be the snowflakes, right? But they can't.
Yep.
They're so
In
sensitive.
their mind, yep.
On what
I keep waiting for them to figure out that the emperor has no clothes, but I guess that book's banned in schools too.
The only book these people are gonna want you to read is one book that just says 2 + 2 = Jesus. That's it. That's it.
2 + 2 = Hey, I have two thoughts. One is I actually think that this thing is being a little overblown. It reminds me a little bit about the fuss the Republicans made about Kathy Griffin with the Trump head. I think it's a little overblown, especially when you realize that the people on January 6th were actually going to hang Mike Pence. It's a little more more serious. And the other thought I had is, or the other piece of news that I had is that the Harford County Republicans beat an effigy of Tom Myers with a Cal Ripken bat. So this is more common than we think.
To be fair, like that's been going on for 10 years at least. So as of now, Donald Trump gets an extra 10 days to put up a bond for his appeal, which, thanks to a appeals court, is now a fraction of what he owes on the fraud judgment. Leave it to white privilege to give him the Sam's Club discount. Trump's self-image has always been his top priority, even more than the dealings of his company and the welfare of the country, as this insightful tour of his New York office during his 2016 campaign shows.
So these awards are given to me by the Jewish community
for different things. And this is the Tree of Life, which is a very big award in terms of everything that I stand for. It means so much to me. And a lot of times I'll have friends of mine come in, Jewish, and they will see the Tree of Life and they'll say, wow, what a great thing. Likewise, right over here, this is the Shalom Humanitarian Award, and that was presented to me also. And these are different awards I've had over the years for different things I've done. This is when I backed the United States in its big cup race and the yacht race, the America's Cup Foundation, which was terrific. And these are just some of the older magazine covers. Now I have so many that I can't put them up. Different things. That's Variety, where The Apprentice was the #1 show on television. You'll see The Apprentice was #1. This was the finale, #1 on television. You might get close up so you can see it. That was on the cover of Playboy, and it was one of the few men in the history of Playboy to be on the cover. So I don't know. And these are just different magazines. This is a picture with Ronald Reagan that was taken at the White House, and it was he was terrific. I had a very good relationship with him. Not a big relationship because I was young, but he liked me and I liked him.
Yeah, he liked you because at the time his brain was already turning into Swiss cheese. So he couldn't remember who the fuck you were.
I mean, seeing all that makes me feel like I walked into like a crappy sports bar.
Don't put down sports like that. That's not
right.
appropriate.
That's right.
You should have a jersey up. That's very funny.
That's right.
Well, actually, in later on in the video, or I think it was of a different, because this is from the Washington Post, I think in the Wall Street Journal version the Tory gave his office, he showed him Shaquille O'Neal's shoe, Tom Brady's helmet. So he
Right.
does, there was some sports stuff in there, but yeah, like a
Yeah,
sports
he's got a
bar.
whole bunch of stuff. It's very eclectic. I mean, the thing, you know, it's interesting because it's Tuesday night. Usually you go to his office on Tuesday night, they got a wing special. So it's, you know, it's,
This podcast is going out on Thursday, so technically it's a half-price burger special.
yeah, that's right. After 10.
When Trump posted on social media attacking the daughter of the judge in the Stormy Daniels hush money trial, I think it was that trial. I've lost track of which judge is presiding over which case. He has so many of them. Kristen Welker of NBC News stated that the post and reaction to it is, quote, a reminder we are covering this election against the backdrop of a deeply divided nation, end quote. I can't wait until Kristen Welker is reporting from one of the many dissident camps next year, telling the rest of us political prisoners that our detention is, quote, a great disturbance in American political discourse, end quote. It's as if Chuck Todd said, well, I've completely fucked the sterling reputation that Meet the Press has built up over the years. And Kristen Welker said, hold my beer. In this clip, Welker pushes the mainstream media narrative that California Governor Gavin Newsom would be a great substitute for Biden on the Democratic ticket, but Newsom was having none of it.
Days after that special counsel report came out questioning the president's age and his memory, the Washington Post reported that anxious Democrats reached out to top Biden donors to ask, quote, when is Gavin getting in? Or how about Whitmer or Shapiro? The buzz has not stopped. I know you've been asked this before, but do you still rule out a run in 2024?
You got to be kidding. I am here celebrating the extraordinary accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, making the case that we need to make to lift up the issues, lift up the record, drive contrast with the Republican nominee to be Donald Trump,
Have you gotten
so that
any
we can win
calls?
for 4 more years.
Have you gotten any calls, Governor, encouraging you to run?
It's all idle chatter. It's all you know what? That's a sideshow. I think what Democrats need to do is worry less, do more, continue to overperform as we have, continue to win, make the case. Don't be ashamed of 4.1% GDP over the last 2 quarters. Don't be ashamed about the alliance management of the Biden-Harris administration. Don't be timid about making the case for the record of this administration.
So you're ruling it out 100%.
It's not even an interesting conversation. Okay. And by the way, I think it's a damning conversation. Frankly, the other side wants us to have. And trust me, I know the mishigash coming from the other side. I'm deeply mindful of the anger machine and all the entertainment industry out there on Fox and elsewhere that love ginning this stuff up. At the end of the day, not only is this train left the station, but we get to enjoy a record of accomplishments as we make the case in a re-election, the likes of which we couldn't have even dreamt of, even as a Democrat, the last century.
I mean, it seems as though we go through a cycle, I'd say every decade, like something happens. Like in the 90s, it was Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, the media kowtowed to that. In the 2000s, it was the run-up to Iraq, Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction. Media really didn't call anybody to the carpet on that one. The 2010s, it was Donald Trump running for president, and oh, maybe he'll pivot. The media was just kind of standing back and letting things go. This decade, it appears to be Biden and his age, and Democrats are finally growing some balls and saying, fuck off with that.
Yeah. Newsom's been through a recall election. He's not taking any crap, as evidenced by the fact that he used Yiddish. I'm pretty sure Gavin Newsom is not a member of the tribe, but he used the word Michigas. Now, he said it improperly, but an A for effort for you saying Michigas, which by the way means nonsense. So way to go, Gavin Newsom, Gentile, using Yiddish. Newsom Whitmer 28.
Well, I don't know. Newsom, I mean, he's okay. He's not like the best anyway, but in this particular instance, I did agree with him. And Kristen would not back down. Like, it was like she was being paid to just push that agenda. So, goodness gracious. Yeah. I mean, good on him.
It's almost as if he was telling her, like, have you not done your homework?
Yeah.
It's Meet the Press, so no.
I like where he said it's not an interesting conversation, which is isn't bad TV, Kristen. Why are you doing this?
No. Yeah, that's embarrassing.
But before we go, my final thought. I'd like to tell you about a very special person I read about in the news recently. Her name is Jane Burns. She is 101 years old and puts in her time as an employee at a Jo-Ann Fabrics in Mason, Ohio. When asked about the secret of a long life, she said, just keep moving. No shit, Jane, you're 101. If you don't move, the flies automatically presume you're dead and start feeding on you.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
You're one cold snap away from being a worm and maggot buffet. I bring this up because as we are about to face a Biden-Trump rematch this year, stories like those of Miss Burns put things into perspective. As for me, that perspective is, God, I can't wait for a meteor to destroy us. How can I think such things? Well, I'm reminded of something my dad once told me. He had just turned 79, and I asked, so Dad, what's it like being 79? He looked at me for a long time, wondering how the fuck I turned out like this. At which point he said to me, son, no one should live this fucking long.
Oh. Brutal.
Good night. This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Jeff Hyson, Gina Brown, Michelle Wojciechowski, Polite Kitty, Chip Jones, Chelsea Obispo, Mo Alexander, Joshua Postel, Valerie Pascal, and Walter Gottlieb. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen Vandenherik. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tom Myers, for access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, and bonus clips. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.